This is the Filmmakers Room. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm your casual filmmaker, Andrew Hernández. Hit like, share, subscribe, comment. But today we have a very cool, very amazing guest.
Oh, come on. It's not, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. He's Daniel Lahr. He's a filmmaker. He's also a friendly filmmaker.
Try to be. I mean, you're a friendly neighborhood filmmaker.
But he's also the founder of Central Coast Film Society.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna talk more about that.
Yeah.
Daniel, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. This is really fun.
So I'm gonna go straight to some topics that I think are have had me very curious.
Sure.
And it's that you actually come from the place where movies are made.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, no, I'm from California, from the Central Coast, and we call it Hollywood's backyard. We're halfway up between LA and San Francisco, so we're kind of right smack dab in the middle. So just far enough away out of all that hustle and bustle.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to see the world through your eyes, because when you're growing as a filmmaker anywhere in the world, you just immediately think about California, Hollywood. You go there with your thoughts, right? And now here we are talking to somebody who grew up somewhat close to that dreamland.
Right. Well, and it's funny when I grew up there, I as a kid, I think you take that for granted, and I always went as a kid to Universal Studios. You do the backlot tour and you see where everything's made, and and you get like, oh yeah, very cool. And then you realize, well, that's not so close for everybody else, and it's not, this is where everybody comes to. And oh, okay, that's kind of neat. And for me, I grew up on a ranch. I didn't grow up in a city. I didn't grow up in a big town or anything like that. I grew up where I had acres and acres and acres of nothing around me. It was just rolling hills and oak trees. And
come on, no big studios.
I didn't have anything, no. But what I did have was, as a kid, so this is kind of how I got started in it, was my mom. I remember I was about 5 years old, maybe 6 years old. And she asked me, she goes, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "Well, I want to be a firefighter or a policeman, an astronaut." And, I kept listing all these things off. And she told me, she goes, "Well, you got to pick one." My mom being the practical realist. And I said, "Well, okay, we'll pick one. Well, if I make movies, I can make a movie about any one of these things that I want. I can make a movie about being an astronaut or a firefighter or all these things." And so that's actually kind of how I got directed. I was like, yeah, I could do that. I could do everything. So
that's interesting. So even though you lived where the big studios are, your passion, it was just a genuine passion of storytelling. It wasn't like, oh, I live right out Disney studio.
Yeah. And it was a passion of wanting to do different things. And I saw this as a way to be able to explore different experiences and just kind of tell different stories. And I really, really thought that was fun. And as a kid, I wanted to keep doing that. So bless my parents, they got me a camera when I was 9 years old. And I had been rolling tape ever since then. Yes, that's how old I am. I was rolling tape. And it was, I being on the ranch, I had my imagination out there. So I got to figure out how to turn a ranch and make it look into all different locations. That was something that was a lot of fun for me to do out there, was use the location as a character. And that's something in storytelling that I feel like, especially new film students, they need to realize what their locations are and how to utilize them in an appropriate storytelling way.
Now that you mentioned it was the ranch, I think that actually is the asset you took for granted. Being in a like a ranch that you can use in different ways of creativity.
Yeah, well, it was something that I didn't think about, I think, on the earlier side of things, but then I definitely realized how lucky and blessed I was to have that, and I definitely utilized that.
Yeah.
I mean, I made it look like an alien planet. I made it look like Africa. I made it look like anything, and it's just the way that you can go about and get different shots and how to angle it, with trees, without trees, how to do it at nighttime, all these different
I
things.
want to see some of those
It's pretty good.
first shots. Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Now, eventually, when we grow as filmmakers, then we do learn that Hollywood is just like this romantic idea
Mm.
of what cinema is or something. But we do learn that actually cinema is moving to other places,
Right.
right? Um, it's not necessarily that. That's more like a romantic thought.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of it has to do with just the history of the industry. I mean, they were making silent films in Philadelphia and all that. That wasn't, the big deal. Uh, LA became the center point for filmmaking in the early days because from LA, just geographically, you could be in the mountains, you could be in the desert, you could be in the forest, you could be in all these different geographical areas within a very short drive. And so that was what really kind of brought that industry there. Plus the weather. It's sunny most of the time. It rains a week out of the year. So the sunlight, the geography, that really helped the industry cement itself out there because that was easy to shoot. It was easy to go out from the studio, a short drive, and you were anywhere you wanted to be, and you made those locations part of that movie and part of that story. So you could be filming a Western, you could be filming a jungle, you could, all these different types of trees and stuff. Everything was right there. You had islands out in the Channel Islands with Catalina and the Santa Barbara Channel Islands. You had coastal, cliffs or sandy beaches. There was all these different types of terrains. So having all that right there, that's literally, you have what's also known as the 30-mile zone, aka TMZ. And so the 30-mile zone, it was basically that radius of 30 miles from the studio locations there, and you could find a lot of different of those locations in that zone, and if not, it's just a little bit further. So
Yes, and I also read that at the beginning of all, they were also escaping from regulations, heavy regulations, camera
right,
patents.
right.
You got at this moment these all these famous engineers creating cameras and equipment projectors, and they were very heavily patented. And they were actually going to the other side of the country, just having
Mhm.
their own businesses.
Right. Well, yeah, Hollywood became the main film kind of hub, but then like New York was the TV broadcast hub. And it's still kind of that way today. But in today's world, though, the technology is making it so that you could film anywhere and anytime. You don't have, to get your film developed, there were certain places that you had to do it. There was, if you wanted the special equipment, there was only certain places that rented it out. But now the way that technology's changed, the way that filmmakers can make anything that they want, you can make whatever you want anywhere you want.
Yes, definitely technology has been democratized, right?
Yeah.
Now we can all tell stories.
Yep.
I see that as a good thing. I remember when, like 2012 era, when Canon with the digital DSLRs, cameras, and everybody was like, now everybody's doing videos. And was like, well, this is my opportunity.
Right.
I don't have all the means, or I didn't live in California, Daniel.
Well, I know. No, and it's funny, the technology changed because, well, kind of going to where everybody's making content now, and then you get back into that mindset of like, well, okay, there's so many people making content. How is my stuff going to stand out above everybody else's? The thing is just as technology has become easier for us to create content, it's also become much easier for us to consume content.
That's true.
So everybody now has phones and they can flip through it. Whereas before, you could only watch films in theaters. You could only go to certain places and watch them. But now we're consuming at a much higher rate than ever before.
Yeah, now that when you took that moment to like realize, like, okay, so now technology is evolving, now studios are moving,
Mm.
it's more international now. um where do you see that this is taking us. For example, obviously we know now that the main big industry is in Atlanta, Georgia,
Hmm.
but other states are also
Right.
having their own activities.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember actually I worked on The Mist, the Stephen King movie, and they shot all that in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I want to say that budget was almost next to nothing for what they shot that movie on. And I remember we got the footage. They shot everything in Shreveport, and we got all the stuff in California. Um, and they did that because it was just cheaper, and there was no reason that they needed to do anything fancy or anything above and beyond. They found a open warehouse, they built a set in it, and they just did it because it was cheaper to rent out a warehouse in Louisiana than a soundstage in LA on a major studio backlot. It's just way cheaper to do it. So I think there's a lot of different things like virtual production. I think that's also changing the way that you could literally be anywhere you want in the world or a different world and never leave the comfort of a garage for essentially. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and now we're here. We're both in Florida,
Yep.
came from very different places, but we're here. And we see something coming. We see something very special.
Hmm.
We see new filmmakers. We see new ideas with new technology, like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But now I want to ask you. This is a very me question. Since you came from the Olympus, right?
Uh-huh. Sure.
What do you think? What good things do you think we should learn from California that we can do here? Talking strictly about film industry, and what things do you think we should stay away from? The good, the bad, and
Ooh,
the ugly.
yeah, no, that's tricky. Well, I think the things that we need to learn is the fundamentals and the history of storytelling. We got to where we are because we've been watching these films forever. We've been learning. I like to say in my classes, like, films and media it's weird. It's a weird concept that you go sit in a room and you watch pictures and images, and that's your product, is just watching light and listening. It's a weird, but you're getting a story, you're getting that experience. So I think learning what has come before and learning the techniques and the tricks of how to make these illusions, this magic that's happening before your eyes. How can I do that? And then not how can I just do that, but how can I make that better? How can I make that trick or whatever I'm trying to do? How can I put my own spin on it to tell my own story? So I think learning about how sound effects works with a punch. What do you want to what do you want to actually smack? Do you smack an actual piece of meat? Do you take a sack of flour and drop it? What are these different tricks and ideas? And learning about every single aspect of filmmaking. As a filmmaker coming up, you need to know all the different departments that happen. You need to know about what they do and how they work, how to break down the script properly. It all comes together. So I think those fundamentals is something that we doesn't matter if you're in Florida or if you're in Minnesota. You got to know how to be able to create that, tell those visual storytelling aspects just the same way. That doesn't change. If you film something in a room in New Hampshire and you film something in a room in LA and you put them together, there's no way that you're going to be able to tell the difference. Or I was even saying, you don't know by watching something, you can't tell visually. Oh, I edited that on Final Cut, but then I edited that on DaVinci, or I edited that on iMovie. You can't tell the difference. It's you're using the tools that you have.
And that's more doable than ever now
Yeah,
because of
absolutely.
technology.
Yeah, absolutely. To stay away from things, to stay away from, I, I
Or things we can learn that they didn't work at the time.
well, the thing that I don't like about it is there's a sense of nepotism that comes with working in the film industry. there's a sense of you have to either know somebody or be doing stuff with somebody, that it's like it's only that in crowd, and to break into that, there's such a hard shell to break into. And in a way that's still very much the case, I mean, with a lot of things. But I say a big but there, there's, since we all have the capability of creating content, and not only just creating content, but we have ways of distributing content that wasn't around 15, 20 years ago, that your likelihood now of getting something seen and getting something, maybe, the word now is to go viral, but before, it was you had to go play the festival circuit. You had to get your film approved and seen in front of a festival, and then, okay, maybe it can start spinning off and go to another festival after that. That's kind of how you had to organically grow. But now it's like and share,
Yes, I'm loving this conversation because I'm making immediately comparisons from where I come from. Because when I got here to Florida, I got to experience the point of view of a normal American person, right? Because I'm kind of a hybrid American, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But then what I saw here is that people, when they say, I'm going to work in the film industry, they immediately think about the big studio experience,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And I think that's normal because everybody is looking to grow their careers. What I don't see is what you're sharing now with me, and I think that's very important to have this conversation, especially here now that we're here, is that we also can function as builders.
Mhm.
We don't have to be in the already castle that is built. We can also, now with technology, these new ways of seeing things, we can also be industry builders.
Yeah.
And that's where I come from. We build our own little industry in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
But nepotism is something very hard to avoid. It like
It
comes
is.
natural. We're human
Yeah.
beings, right? It's very difficult to not let that happen, and that's why we, the builders, we're supposed to be protectors of that not happening early on, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I guess what I want to get to this point is, can we do it and can we avoid it? Both of them here in Florida, the good and the bad.
Yeah, I think you can. And it's funny you said that, because my personal expression, I always said when I made my own stuff back in California, was, I'm not going to wait for my own ship to come in. I'm going to build my ship. And that was kind of my thing, was I'm going to build my ship. I even, made a sign of that, because I'm not going to just stand around and wait for it to happen. You have to be proactive and get it done. In creating your own group, you can definitely do that. And I love being able to build your own corner, your own section, and you definitely get to know these people that will come and go. But the thing is that if you're building your own ship, you're all in the same boat together. So you're all going to rise and fall with the tide together. You're going to weather the storm together. You're going to, if you guys succeed, we're all going to succeed. And I think, I've had a couple of different actors that have gone on to do great, amazing things. I've had a cinematographer that's gone on to do great things. And we all kind of were in that same startup mode. But it's great because, they go off and do their new things, but then you need somebody else to fill that spot, that crew position, that cast member.
That's true.
So it is great to do that. So if you're doing it, I think, the right way, you are still kind of rotating people in and out. And it's great because then, again, they go off and share their stories of like, hey, this guy I worked with on this project is amazing. We should bring him on. But again, it's the word of mouth. It's being in that active side of things. It's being actively building that ship and making it go.
Yes, and I think this is I'm not talking now from an independent point of view, right? We're indie, casual, friendly filmmakers, right?
Right.
And that point of view, we have that responsibility, the thing that you're talking right now, because, and trust me, I saw it happen. I saw casual filmmakers build a industry, right? We obviously we don't compete with the big studios, but we did
Right.
we did build something for ourselves. Now, what do we apport and what is our responsibility is to obviously protect whatever we are building, something that is become something special, and also to share the information with other colleagues, because we learn from both our mistakes and our triumph. And that's a very important knowledge we have to share with each other, because if not, what will happen is everything that you learn dies with you. You know, it doesn't pass on.
Right.
And I think at least we as teachers, to our point, we're already kind of doing that as every time we
Sure.
teach and share the knowledge. But I think your story is much more powerful, important from that side, because you do break that idea of this only can happen if you're part of that, already system established.
Yeah.
You're not afraid of starting back from zero, right? And build something in another area. And we can all be part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, what's really neat is like even when you're in film school and you're making these connections for the first time, and you're looking around the classroom and you're like, I need a crew. I can't do this by myself. You've got your classmates, you've got your colleagues there that you're all learning together. You're all in that same boat, just trying to make it. And I think that's when you really start making those connections, and joining like the film club and doing things like that is the way to do it. You have to network, you have to share the same passions, same dreams. But as filmmakers, when we are, I don't want to say more established, but when, we've got a few films under our belt, we're kind of rolling along with it, and you're looking for new crew. I think it's impossible to try to say, this is going to be my next guy. I can tell, but I think there is a sense of finding somebody with the enthusiasm to learn. And because we're always going to be learning, there's always new technology. There's always new ways to tell the story. Again, our primary goal is to tell the best story we can as filmmakers. And
yeah. I'm gonna be very cheesy, but I'm a very fan of
I
George
like
Lucas.
cheese. Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, and what I like about George Lucas is that he did something that at the time challenged the main idea
Sure.
of the whatever system was in place,
Yeah.
and he changed the game forever. So I think Florida is the best place right now to challenge all those old ideas, or to use what is already new technology working, helping us actually challenge those ideas, came with new ideas. And I think in Florida, what I have seen is that something is cooking, something is happening. I can almost smell it. And we can definitely all contribute to that and find out where we go from here.
Yeah, or Central Florida in particular, the entertainment that's here is crazy. The talent that's here is crazy. I just think it's untapped resources, and as filmmakers, you need to know that there's a lot of people here that come here to be a part of this entertainment world. I mean, it's the amusement parks, the theme parks, it's the nightlife, all this different stuff. It's all happening here, and there's a lot of crossover in those different layers, but you can utilize people's knowledge and resources of their technologies and what they have as background, and you can kind of cross-pollinate and then make your stuff even better.
And something I'm going to say, this is my words, okay? I'm going to be responsible for them, is that I keep hearing some here and there excuses about, it's because of politics here and there. Hey, where I come from, there wasn't even politics to do film. There was nothing. And we just did it for passion.
Yeah.
We love storytelling. That's it. And eventually it happened. And then politics follow, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot, I was trying to think of, there's a time when I was in film school in San Francisco. And again, I'm not getting in, it's not politics, but I want to say it was like the San Francisco Film Society or something. They came on campus. They were going to talk about how they wanted to give grants to student filmmakers. And I'm going, free money. This is great. Like, sign me up. Give me $10,000 to make a film. Oh my God. I don't know what I do when I have a $200 budget for my film. Like, this is great. So, and they were ready to start signing checks. The thing is we sat in this auditorium, and I remember very clearly they said to the group, they said, if you're here with an action movie, a comedy, a romantic comedy, or a horror film, and I'm trying to remember but it was like those different genres. They said, you need not apply because those films don't contribute to film as an art form.
Wow.
I stood up and I turned my back on him and I walked right out because I had a beautiful romantic comedy that I was ready to do. And
Look at that.
but it was really interesting that, there is certain coffers for films,
Yeah.
but it comes with strings attached. It comes with, well, you need to be making this kind of film. Well, okay, but that's not what I was going for. A lot of film school is a great place to go and experiment and try
Yes.
different things and see what works for you as your style. I learned very early on my style was more like Steven Spielberg, like blockbuster. I'm going to make something that's a popcorn flick that everyone's going to enjoy. But that's not necessarily what the people that are looking to hire student filmmakers was hiring for. And that's fine. That's totally, you make your art films, make your dramas, make, something that's a documentary and a political subject. That's great. Tell those stories. It's just not what I was into. Again, I wanted to make something that would engage the audience and make everybody have a good time.
The same thing happened to me. In Puerto Rico, they send it was like free money for
Yeah.
making movies because of the COVID or something. They just sent I don't remember how many millions of dollars. It was crazy, and then everybody applied, and we ended up making like 37 movies in the island.
Wow.
But at the time, I wasn't feeling it at the time. I was in other projects, and I didn't apply. And when something is for you, it will be for you.
Right.
So don't push it, and don't depend on the government, on anybody. You do things on your own way, because if not, like, let's say you happen to find yourself in Hollywood, right, in the Olympus, right, then they will take control of everything you do. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be, also your stories don't want to be a slave to anybody.
Right.
You want to have your own voice.
Right.
And I think that's gonna be on you to also put some boundaries and having your own style.
Right. But I will counter that with something. So when you're a filmmaker, though, this is the most collaborative art form that you're ever going to get. So based on what your team is, so let's say hypothetically we've removed the studio from everything now.
Yeah.
And you've got your team and you've got your cinematographer and you're starting to clash and fight and butt heads on set. I mean, it happens, where they say, no, this is the way to do it. Ultimately it's the director who's going to decide, but you could really start to clash. And but I think that as filmmakers we need to also be able to be malleable to other people's ideas, especially when you're on set, because there's going to be things and ideas where we have in our head and we've got it planned out. We always can storyboard, but we also have an image in our head of what we imagine it to look like. But we need to be able to be flexible, I think, in the moment, because a lot of magic can happen there.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and as a director, the more projects you do, you either humble yourself even more to learn that lesson, or you either don't have any creative partners, because this is a team effort, a project based, community and business. You need to rely on other team members, and it also makes it more fun. I at least me, I actually enjoyed being a filmmaker because of the creative team experience. I really do. More than this is maybe a horrendous statement from a filmmaker, but more even than the movie itself. I really I really love the craft.
Yeah.
Making the craft. The other story, I do love it and enjoy it, but I just really love making them. That's why I'm a filmmaker and not a cinephile or movie lover. I'm more of a filmmaker.
Yeah, I hear you. And for me too, going back and watching some of my old stuff, it's the memories of making that. I watch it, and I don't watch it to get the story out of it. I don't know if it's the same for you, but when I watch my old work, I'm going, "Oh, I remember that night. That was a horrible night." Or I just how did I get this? Like, oh, I remember this actress was called in because the one I had was sick, and this, and ended up being amazing. And so it was all these different things. So I love remembering all those different stories and things that happen.
Now, digital media. I want to talk about that. You were mentioning about new technologies,
Mm.
the democratization of where we are now, and all these different mediums. I'm enjoying it. I loving it. I trust me, and I remember I'm not a. I remember when I went to film school. It was more like a purist. How to be a purist in film, as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And it was difficult for me because I'm actually more liberal on that side. I like to explore to different ideas, different technologies and stuff. And I was enjoying for example, the digitalization of film. And I know that can be touchy subject for many colleagues. I get it, I understand, but it was what helped me bring up my ideas. Now, when we talk about digital media, I see it like all of these technologies and mediums and different crafts joining to have a storytelling experience, right? Are we? Let's have that thought of
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Okay, so from there, how do you think? We come from a film more traditional side now into digital media. How do you think this help us, or does it not help us? They also the good, the bad, and the ugly. Looking the traditional film with what's happening now.
Yeah, so I have a pretty interesting take on that, because when I went to film school, I had one foot on both worlds, where I shot 16 millimeter film on a Bolex camera, and I was splicing it on a flatbed, linearly editing, not a non-linear. I was very linear, where I'm holding up the strips and I'm putting them down, and I'm physically slicing I'm looking to see which frame do I stop it on. I mark it and I cut it, and then I take tape and I slap it together and I stick it back on, and then I watch it all together. And that process for me was so eye-opening, because I was starting to learn before I did that. The non-linear stuff was coming out. That's when Final Cut just came out, when Premiere was just coming out, and it was becoming more available to students. And so I was starting to learn, okay, I can do all this digital stuff, and it's so fast. But actually cutting the film, I was so careful. I was so like, okay, this is the exact number of timing and the framing. And I just learned so much about editing at that point, and not just editing, but shooting. Like, I need to make sure I have enough of this film. Or if I don't have that, then I can't, I literally have nothing that I can cut. And so it was like, I learned so much about physically chopping up your baby, and putting it together. And you look at it, you're like, it felt more organic to me. Whereas with film, but again, here's the pros and cons. Shooting on film, you've got, like, you do 2 or 3 takes, you don't know what you got. You have no idea what's in the can until it's processed days later, and then you're like, oh, I really messed up, and I can't go back because we rented everything for that day, and I can't do reshoots. I can't afford that. Whereas with digital, you know what you got, what's in the can, what product you're getting in the end, and you can film for days and burn through your storage space. But with film, it's very finite. You're very limited and very tied down to it. But digital media, you've got that flexibility, you've got that freedom to just roll and roll and roll, and it doesn't matter, because it's not wasting anything really. And then when you get into the computer, and you can edit and you can change things, you can do something one way, and then you're realizing, well, that's just not working, but I've already got all this other footage that I could go and choose from. So in a way, and then in a way, you're kind of diving deeper into a bigger mess, because you're like, well, I have so many options now to choose from. So there's something to be said about limiting yourself, but you're still, there's pros and cons of both
Let's take
sides.
one.
Yeah.
Let's take one at a time. Let's be super optimistic now.
Okay.
And then we go the dark side of the digital media. In what way do you think it enhances the experience of story or of seeing a story?
Yeah, well, just the ease of getting the shot. Digital media is giving you that instant gratification of knowing what you've got, and that you know, you can see the shot, you've recorded it, you know what you're getting into when you get into the editing room. Because with film, you don't know until you watch the dailies and you see, oh, okay, we're good. Um, Also with digital media, I mean, the editing is so much easier. The color correcting, the post production work, it's so much easier. It's night and day difference. So that is, that's why everything's gone digital now. You don't, they've gone digital, but trying to make the look of film. So, but it's that's the best thing about digital.
Yeah, and the other day, now going to the dark side, I saw a video of Denis Villeneuve in the Dune set, or I think it was
Yeah,
something like that. It was like a TikTok video, and he was saying, "I hate green screen. I hate
yeah.
it. It changes the atmospheres or whatever." I don't know if I was saying another director, but it's something like that. So, in what ways do you think we're losing something?
Well, yeah, you can tell, and with the green screen and those things, visual effects and digital effects, especially since I worked in visual effects, I feel like it gets overused easily. What I've learned is that the best visual effect is the one that you never know it ever existed, and that it's a tool. It's a filmmakers have a whole toolbox of different options that they can use, and visual effects and digital effects like that are tools, but it's something that should not be overused, because then it's like a magician. If you do the same card trick over and over again, your audience is going to know how it's done, and they're going to lose interest. So that's something actually I really like about like Lord of the Rings, where they had all these different types of effects and tricks. And I remember seeing an interview with Peter Jackson say that, the best thing to do is to just alternate and do different ones all the time, because it's going to keep them guessing and they're not going to know, keep them on their toes.
Those were the days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm also another cheesy fan of Peter.
Yeah.
So now that you went into that direction and your VFX experience, I also want to touch on that. Immersive experience. We
Yeah.
got now a lot of new technologies. How do you think it enhances the audience, the spectators' experience? And if you can mention a few specific technologies.
Well, I mean, in terms of filmmaking,
Yeah, for
or yeah.
example, 4DX or virtual production,
Oh,
whatever experience, 360.
virtual production to me is such a game changer. The Void they did for the Mandalorian is insane, because when you're doing visual effects, before this, you had different tricks and stuff that you could do, but I remember the things that you couldn't fake were shadows, and that was and reflections. So seeing like the Mandalorian, he had his, the shiny chrome armor, but you're seeing reflections of the set around. That is something that instinctively your eye before all this would know. You're like, oh, obviously he's in front of a green screen because there's no reflection, there's nothing changing. But when you've got that wraparound and totally immersive environment, it's reflecting all the right parts, and it's something that your eye and your brain is just instinctively knowing that, okay, he's actually there. There's an actual connection with that environment. So the believability is a lot more believable. And but same thing with like shadows. So you can put the sun, you can put lights, you can do all these different effects that in a large uh, virtual production area, it's practically projecting that light onto the subject, and you only need a few little other lights to kind of fill in where you might need it. But to me, that technology is insane.
And what are your thoughts in either virtual reality or having other effects enhancing the story when you're watching a movie, like I don't know, seats moving or whatever,
Yeah.
or being in having the goggles and
Yeah.
seeing 360. What do you think about that?
So I love virtual reality. I think that's a lot of fun. I think it's kind of our modern day 3D glasses. Like in the 1950s and 60s, the 3D was just like everywhere. And to a point though, 3D to me these days it kind of has almost become a gimmick, where it's just like another way to upsell and make a few extra dollars in the theater. um and virtual reality is a great, like, I mean, there's I think a lot of ways that you can tell stories in terms of making video games that are really cool. I think that's the new evolution of what 3D glasses were. And because that way it's not just the visuals, it's the interactivity as well. So like if you're playing a game and you can grab stuff and move through the environments, I think that's a whole different ball of game. The other thing too is like with theme parks, making those kinds of rides. I was out here and I was wearing one of my Cafe Effect shirts, and somebody stopped me. I was on iDrive or something. They said, "Oh, you're out here working on the thing, right?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Well, you work for Cafe FX, right?" I said, "Well, I did." He goes, "Oh." And they were working on the Forbidden Journey, the Harry Potter ride, when it first opened, when with Islands of Adventure. And because I remember when I was out there, we worked on the Wispies for the Dementor tales, and so they were out here working on the ride, and so he just saw my shirt and we connected, and it was just kind of one of those really cool things. But it shows that we are still coming up with different ideas and different ways to integrate film and media in what is an immersive environment physically, not just virtual reality, but how do you present this in a physical sense when you're on these rides and attractions?
Yeah, pretty amazing where we're going, right?
Yeah.
How I feel is that I also enjoyed it. I love it. I think it goes with it's a case by case scenario for different stories, right? For some stories, this is super. I'm getting old.
We all are.
Yeah. For example, something as a very big screen, for me, it can get distracting from sometimes. For example, if I'm in a super big screen and I have to be like this, that's a little bit distracting for me. Now, there are stories that I really love. Give me everything.
Yeah.
Give me all. Give me the VR, the 360.
Yeah.
I guess the more options, the better.
Yeah, and it's okay to have those options, and I think it's based on the market. And if people are buying it, then they're buying it, and make it. So absolutely. But I remember for me, like watching Avatar when it first came out, and I got it in 3D and IMAX and did the whole 9 yards. But I remember sitting; it was sold out, right? So I'm sitting like in the second to front row, and I'm just staring like this.
Yes.
And I'm got the 3D kind of coming at me, but it's in a weird perspective. And I was like, "Oh, well, this is kind of a bummer."
It is, but yeah, definitely. There was a movie I went once that they have like screens on the side,
Oh, it's wrapping around.
but it was weird. Added layers of video. It didn't look right.
Uh,
Now, for example, I remember seeing 3D the Star Wars Force Awakens.
yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Oh man, the layers, and I said, "This is 3D. This is amazing.
Yep.
I can see every movie like this,
Yep.
right?" Also, something other type of crazy technologies that I think enhances the experience. Going a little bit back to the digital media, I really love algorithms. I love that they study me. They know what I like. They
Yeah.
just send me everything they like.
That's true. It's true, but you know what? The thing though too with algorithms is like, it's going to tell you you're going to like this, but there's also it's going to miss stuff. It is stuff. It's just AI. It's not, it's still, you may want to look for a different film or something
true.
that's on there, and
Yeah,
you won't get it.
I read the next. I saw a tweet from Elon Musk that they said that the algorithm is gonna get even more intelligent because of the AI. Now, definitely, you will miss stuff. It's a dilemma. It's a dilemma because I just saw the documentary, Social Dilemma.
No, I haven't seen that
Oh,
yet.
you gotta watch it.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it's in Netflix anymore, but It's a documentary that because of the algorithm you end up
Yeah.
you miss the all other point, right?
Yeah, right. Well, and that's why we just have to watch what we know we like to go watch, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes just I guess how you can actually break the bubble is just trying new things.
Yeah.
You know, once in a while, go to the theater and you will see new posters that
Sure.
you weren't gonna see maybe in a trailer in YouTube. You're
Right.
just gonna see new movies, maybe a local movie. Just go to a film festival.
Yep.
Everybody was like, always telling me that do you watch enough movies or you're not a cinephile? Well, I go to a lot of film festivals and I actually see a lot of really local indie films, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I don't binge watch movies, but I watch a lot of very passionate filmmakers movies,
Yeah.
and I think those bring new experience.
Yeah. I know my algorithm on Netflix is completely bonkers because I watch like everything, so they don't know what to do with me. Whereas like you look at my wife's profile and it's like, yeah, you know that's my wife's what she likes to watch. So
Yes. One last thing I want to talk with you. This is more me also being cheesy, but I think it was something very special to talk about because of the approach that I always get from students when they're making life decision choices is that you brought up to me once that you're a father, and I think that's very special. So I want to talk a little bit about what we can talk about from a filmmaker to a father. I want to see your point of view
oof.
of that and how's it that have changed you in your storytelling
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's that's a big question.
I'm sorry. I'm
No,
sorry. I
no,
told you
no,
it was
no.
going to be
Oh God,
softball
I'm gonna get
questions.
emotional
This
here.
is the last one.
No, no, it's okay. It's okay
Promise.
because it is very meaningful. My number one job that I've ever had that I'm most proud of and happy of is being a dad, and I making films and getting into the industry. I was working when I was on Spider-Man 3. I was working 20 hours a day, like 7 days a week in a room with no windows, and I went crazy. And of course, I was young and dumb, and I could do that sort of stuff. But the thing is now as a dad, I cherish that time that I get to spend with my kids. And I haven't made a movie per se when I had my kids, and that's when I started the Central Coast Film Society. And I wanted to be able to do something and still inspire people and get involved with their learning and their growing as filmmakers. And I think I may have shared this story with you, but my daughter, she was maybe about 5 years old, and she looked at me and she goes, "Dad, do you even know how to make movies anymore?" And I was like, "Okay, that's it. I can't." Mm-mm. So I grabbed my camera. I said, "We're gonna make something right now." It was Christmas time, and we made this cheesy little Christmas video, and she loved it. She says,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna make movies like my dad."
Right.
And I was like, "Yes!"
Oh man.
So it was an amazing thing. But it's funny because now my kids, they knew I make all these movies, and they're like, "We want to see them." And then there's certain ones where I'm going, maybe you shouldn't see that right yet. So it's interesting because you think about that now. You think about your films as a legacy, and you're like, okay, what are my kids gonna watch? What are they gonna show their kids and be like, Grandpa made this? And so it's like what I'm making, I want them to be able to see because it's not when I die, they're not going to go away. Those stories are still going to be told, and so it doesn't matter even if it's on YouTube and somebody decades from now is just searching and they happen to come across the algorithm that they have and they're going to watch it. Maybe that means something for them. And it's kind of cool to think about that.
Man, this is a very powerful topic. Oh man, now I'm getting
Yeah,
emotional.
see?
I
Sorry.
get boob stones and everything that because that is really what it's all about. So, and I bring this topic because I know students, and I pretty much know you've heard of them. They go for, but what do you want to do? I want to do movies. I want to do this and this
Yeah.
and this. They rarely mention, want to do a family, but they deep down, they sometimes they do. And trust me, now that I got into my other side of my career, for me, the most important thing is family. It
Yeah.
is cheesy. I don't
It is.
care, but
No.
it's what
Yeah.
fulfills me.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
and I don't even have kids. You know, I can't imagine in your shoes. You know,
Yeah.
and I can tell that just go for things that fulfill you,
Mhm.
Because the movies you did. I'm gonna link this to what you said. It's even now more deep and meaningful and special that your kids are gonna watch them.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine that.
Yeah, and it's funny, the last big film I made was 2012. That was the year I got married. And it was so meaningful to me, and I made that movie specifically about family. And it was all about family and what you wanted versus what you needed. And it's amazing how like that film just kind of echoed the next stage in my life that I got into. And that's a film that I'm proud to show my kids. That I'm
Yeah.
like, it's gonna mean a lot.
And I think this will only enhance your storytelling
Yeah.
skills. Like everything in life, you get more mature, and you now is gonna be more powerful stories.
Yeah.
And I saw a video about George Lucas. Somebody asked him, "Hey, why did you stop directing? Right after Star Wars, or I don't know how many movies he directed, because he's a producer but
Right.
directing." And he was like, I had kids, and I just really wanted to be with my kids. And I can totally understand.
Yeah.
I don't judge the guy. I can totally see it.
Mhm.
You put yourself in that shoes, and what movie can be greater than that? Your own movie,
Right.
your own
Right,
story.
right.
So I think that's beautiful that you're having that experience, and now I can't wait to see your future stories, future films,
Yeah.
because they're gonna be impacted by that
Oh,
life
absolutely.
experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that I want to close this with is your biggest creation is some of your movie you want to talk about, or some of or the society you found there. What do you want to share with us?
Yeah, well, the Central Coast Film Society was just it was a place to get together and really enjoy cinema and films that were specifically made on the Central Coast. Just because it was home, it was the backyard, it was what we all knew. But I wanted it to be a place for fans and for filmmakers to come together. We as filmmakers are fans. We are the same. It's not any different. We just grabbed a camera and started making it on our own. So we've all started out as fans, and so as a way, it's more of just to inspire you and to let anybody with an idea of maybe wanting to be a filmmaker know that you can do it, and to give that motivation and to give the insight into how the sausage is made, and this you can be a part of this, and this is how you can do it. And that's the thing that I love carrying on into teaching. It just rolled right into it, and you say, you can do this. This is how you're going to do it, and let me be there to help you. If you have any questions, let me know. And I love talking about this stuff. So, being a dad, being a father, I guess still go home and have dinner and tuck them into bed and do all those fun things. But I'm still living my passion. I'm still telling stories. I'm still trying to make sure that other people are telling their stories, because that's the beautiful thing about filmmakers. We all come from a different background. We all have a different walk of life. And what that does is it gives everybody a different perspective. And that different perspective is something that is unique to you and you alone as a filmmaker. And that's what you really need to buy into, and believe in yourself and believe in your vision, your perspective.
Hey, mate. I thank you so much for being a person that dedicates to share knowledge. For me, that is the most important thing, because I'm talking for me. I'm a teacher first,
Yeah.
before being a filmmaker. I really enjoy showing the way for new people that are looking or craving to know how to tell their stories.
Yeah.
And I think every voice is important.
Absolutely.
So where can people find you? Where can they reach out?
Well, I've got DanielLahr.com, so DanielLahr.com, and they can find me there. They can find some of my work that I've done, but then they can come find me at Lake Sumter State College.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, see?
We're doing something very cool
Yeah,
there.
right, yeah.
This is definitely not gonna be the last time you're gonna hear from Daniel here, and I'm
Uh-oh.
pretty sure you're gonna see his work. He's also other feature films, movies, whatever he's doing, we're gonna support it. Thank you so much. This is the Filmmakers Room. You can check us out on YouTube, or you can hit share, like, subscribe, all of that in the Filmmakers Room podcast in YouTube and in Instagram. And you can find me as Andrew Hernandez director, also in YouTube, in Instagram. So thank you so much, and we're gonna keep getting more special guests, just like Daniel. Thank you, Daniel, for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, see you in the next one.